What's going on in your world?
What's going on here? Well, we're getting ready for the fantasy football season as much as we can be.
Now, just give us real quick, camp's opening up around the league. The Browns rookies are there. The Steelers have opened camp. Who are some names right off the bat? Let's go with just running backs first off. Who are going to be the big players this year?
Well, the big player in my mind, especially if you're a PPR league, is Ray Rice. He's got no one really who's going to steal carries like he's had in the past few years when he's already been a number one type caliber running back. And now that he's, not going to be losing the touches like he has in the past, I see him extremely taking off. But really, the top three running backs of Ray Rice, LaShawn McCoy, and Arian Foster, I think all three can easily be number one picks in your draft. It's all about how your scoring system exactly lines up and really just a gut instinct of who you think will be the best out of those three.
Where do you put a guy, and I'm a Bears fan, so where do you put a guy like Matt Forte? Now, he's got his contract. He's going to be back. I think they're going to be throwing more in Chicago. And, yeah, he's healthy, but he has, you think about that knee. I know maybe not first round, but he's probably still someone that's going to go pretty early in the draft because he gets you catches and runs, doesn't he?
Yes, he's a consistent pass catcher, and I think that's the big thing to look at with him. He's been right around the 50-catch mark, over the 50-catch mark, I should say, in 3 straight years. You said it yourself, too, that he's only going to improve those numbers. I think a big thing that hurt him last year was how many touchdowns he was losing from Marion Barber on those goal line carries.
Well, and I ask you, is that going to happen again this year if you're looking to draft Forte with a bigger back like Michael Bush on the team?
See, this is where you're going to come into a catch-22 because I don't think Bush is as good of a goal line back as a Marion Barber. And I also think the new system, I think you're going to see Forte get more goal line touches, but that's something that really you're not going to really be able to know. You can only go by past precedent, which we've seen that Forte will come off the field. Bush has been a goal line back, but I don't think he's as good as Barber. And again, with a new system, it is something you got to worry about, but I think the quality touches that he's going to get otherwise, touchdowns will come. It hurts when you lose those goal line carries, but I think he's going to get enough of them because I don't think Bush will do nearly as well in the goal line role as Marion Barber did.
Yeah, see, that's one thing about Forte. You mentioned a catch-22. He's great because he's probably going to get you 70 yards a game, and he's going to get you 4 or 5 catches. But you could go a couple weeks without a touchdown from him. And
if you're really heavily favored in the yards in your league, then he's no problem. But if you're a 100-yard rushing game gets you 3 points versus a touchdown that gets you 7, then yes, he's definitely maybe not even a second rounder, but down in the third round. But if you're a very balanced league, a standard league, I've seen him go to. I don't know what just happened. My phone just exploded on me. Sorry, guys.
Probably us.
I'm telling you.
I don't know what's going on. It's probably us.
Just keep our league safe.
Just be safe.
Hey, we're just going to, keep going with the normal here of the Ryan and Christian show, having the lovely blenders. But no, I think he can be as early as a first-round pick in a standard league because of the number of touches he does get.
Let me ask you about a quarterback here, and I'm curious as to how high he's going to go this year. And they're actually talking about him on SportsCenter this morning, and that is Cam Newton, someone who really came off and had an amazing rookie season. And from everything you're hearing and reading, the guy worked out like crazy as far as learning even more of the playbook. They're going to open it up this year for him, working with teammates, getting in better shape. He reported with the rookies today, where they didn't have to report yet. Do you think that he is someone with his throwing and running could be a top, if not one of the top quarterbacks taken, or is it still, do you need to see more from him in the fantasy football league? Because he seems like he can get you so many different array of points.
He is an all-around guy, and that's something that you got to love about a fantasy quarterback. In a standard league where rushing is worth rushing touchdowns a little more than passing touchdowns, he is a top-tier quarterback in my mind. He is at the bottom of top tier, so behind the Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, but right at the bottom of the top tier, him and Matthew Stafford I put up there. But you're right, when you can get it in so many numerous ways, and especially if you get rushing touchdown points big time, no, I don't expect him to get 14 like he had last year, but I think he can easily get 7 or 8 touchdowns on the ground combined with probably another 20 or so in the air. The fact that he's in there early is something that you love to hear from a guy. I've seen him drafted as early as the beginning of the second round, and one person I saw take him right at the end of the first round in a quarterback-heavy league. So You can see him going anywhere. I have no problem taking him. As soon as he and Stafford go off the board, though, then in the quarterback situation, you can almost wait literally until as far as the 10th round, really, and get a quarterback who has a difference of, honestly, 2 points per game between, like, the number 7 quarterback and the number 13 quarterback in those fantasy standings.
Yeah, see, I always wonder, you always know the first quarterback's going off now. You know, your Tom Brady's, your Drew Breeses, your Aaron Rodgers. You know, those are always the first ones to go. And in the past, Peyton Manning, I don't know about this year. And you always wonder, what's that second crop of guys that are good and solid to start week by week, you know, in a fantasy league?
After those first three, Rodgers, Brady, Brees, I have Stafford and Newton at the bottom of Tier 1, say Tier 1.5, I guess you can call it. I put Tony Romo up there at the top of Tier 2. Hey, he's a good fantasy quarterback. You cannot argue that.
He had 31 touchdowns and like 11 picks last year.
All right.
Maybe, you know, not the most clutch guy when it comes to winning the games, but for your fantasy games, that's another question.
Win games.
Yeah, for fantasy, we don't need the team to win. We just need him to
win.
No, exactly. But here's the thing. After Romo, you got names like Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, Michael Vick, Roethlisberger, Matt Ryan, Matt Schaub, Jay Cutler, even Robert Griffin, that literally the difference between the top guy and the bottom guy, according to our projections right now, is no more than 2 points per game for the entire year. So I see no reason in wasting one of your, say, third or fourth round picks to get somebody like, say, either Eli or Peyton Manning or even a Mike Vick or Phillip Rivers. I see no reason in taking that risk. I'm going to wait. I'm going to build up on my other positions because I can still get a guy like Jay Cutler who might get 1 less point per game on average throughout the entire year. I can get him in the 10th or 11th round.
That's a good point.
I'm taking Jay Cutler, and I'm riding him to the championship.
Yeah, I think sometimes people feel the need to just grab that quarterback round 1 or round 2, and they because they think if they don't get one of the top ones, they're done. And
well,
that's not an unsuccessful way to build your team, but I like you said, you can build up your other positions, and there's still going to be that second year. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger's never, I don't think, going to kill you in a fantasy league. And it's funny, we still don't talk about Eli Manning that much as far as fantasy quarterback.
No, we never do. You would think you would start getting respect. No, I've seen fantasy championships won last 2 or 3 years with Eli Manning being picked in the 10th or 11th round. Even in his worst years, where the team's doing terribly, he's still throwing for 4,500 yards. So, no, I think that given your situation, I mean, this is just my personal opinion on the strategy. Running backs are there's a small cream of the crop, people who aren't going to be splitting carries or aren't going to be getting significant touches. And those are probably your first 4 or 5, adding Jones-Drew and maybe even Chris Johnson, although he's killed me, adding those 2 into the list. After that, if you want to take a risk on a quarterback or get one of those top quarterbacks, if that's your strategy, I have no problem with that. But I see absolutely no benefit in picking a Tier 2 quarterback in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round because you're going to get somebody just as good in the 8th, 9th, 10th round. And when running backs are at such a high demand especially, I'm going to use those picks to get as many good running backs as I can. Wide receivers are so deep as well that you can pick up guys off free agency probably all year without losing too much value there either.
Yeah, there's always those couple guys that start popping up week 1 and 2, and everyone races their computer to try to pick them up after one game.
Especially at the wide receiver position. And, I mean, you've heard me say it a bunch of times. I'm about value. It's all about the value of a pick. And we use, for our customized cheat sheets that you can now get on our website, where you type in your scoring system and you get essentially the perfect cheat sheets for you as a result. We use a method called value-based drafting where you compare a player to the average player at a starting position or an average player that would be on a fantasy roster. So because quarterbacks drop off after like that number 13 or 14 player, Aaron Rodgers is really high versus where the difference between a kicker is literally a half a point per game between 1st and 12th. Their values are very low. And I see it most evident in the wide receivers where you see Calvin Johnson just head and shoulders above the rest, and everybody else, everywhere from Fitzgerald, Roddy White, Andre Johnson, all the way down to people like Colston and Miles Austin are all pretty equal in their value ratings just because of their points. But it's all about the value of a pick based off of the entire cream of the crop. There's no point in taking a quarterback who's going to do as well as a third-round pick versus a 10th-round pick, it's not worth it.
Yeah, and a receiver that I had last year that was good for me but didn't give me what I got, but I don't blame him. As a guy, like, what do you do when you're sitting there on the board and the draft's starting to go? You're in rounds 3, 4, and 5, and you see a Larry Fitzgerald sitting there. You know the talent. You know what potentially can happen, but you know it's Cobb or Skelton, and you don't know who the quarterback is. It kind of come back to bite me a little bit, and I didn't expect it because I expected Cobb to do well last year. But now I look at that situation, I'm like, as good as a player as a guy like Fitzgerald is, do I want to go to second, third round, take him, not knowing who's throwing him the ball, because it matters?
Oh, it does matter, and the quarterback is as important as the receiver himself, and that's the tough part to get a hold of. Something like Larry Fitzgerald, though, still look at his stats. Even with no quarterbacks throwing to him last year, he still had 80 catches, still had 1,400 yards. His touchdowns, 8 touchdowns, that's really not that bad when you look at some of the other guys up there. Calvin Johnson had 16, that's one thing, but even Roddy White only had 8. Wes Welker only had 9. Greg Jennings only had 9. So with wide receiver talent being so big this year and so many teams going to the 3 wideout sets, you're not going to have many guys like a Calvin Johnson getting double-digit touchdowns. Someone, though, consistent like Larry Fitzgerald who's going to get you the yards. For a receiver, the touchdowns are going to come, especially for a top-tier guy like Fitzgerald. Don't worry about passing up on him, even if we don't know who the QB is.
No, this is very insightful today, James. We might as well. Camps are opening. We need to start getting people ready for their fantasy football draft. So, and our fantasy baseball team is at the tank anyway, so who cares?
Fantasy football is more fun. We got a lot more we can talk about, and there's hey, it's time to start a new season and get going.
Well, and especially as we start doing preseason games and we talk to you, we see injuries and we start to see where the depth charts are going. It can help out even after the draft to see, hey, maybe some free agent moves you might want to make as week 1 approaches. So,
yeah, well, hey, you got drafts that begin as early as the Hall of Fame game on August 6th. So as soon as that happens, things start getting crazy. We'll have mock drafts available hopefully very shortly online. Essentially, we're creating a virtual draft book. So instead of going and buying a $10 magazine at your local convenience store, just hop online, check out everything we got, podcasts, ratings, and again, our customized cheat sheets to make your league as perfect as possible.
All right, James, as always, we appreciate